Have you ever sat down at the end of a long day, surrounded by absolute silence, yet felt an overwhelming sense of urgency humming beneath your skin? You look around, and everything is completely fine. The bills are handled, the tasks are done, and yet your shoulders are pressed firmly against your ears. Your breath is shallow, and your mind is racing toward a future problem that does not even exist yet. It is an exhausting way to live, moving through the world with a body that acts like it is constantly running out of time. You might try to sit still, to finally enjoy a moment of peace, but your legs feel restless, your heart beats a little too fast against your ribs, and a strange sense of dread tells you that you should be doing something, anything, to prepare for a crisis that never comes. If you recognize this heavy, invisible weight, I want you to take a slow, deep breath right now. Before we dive into understanding why your body feels this way, let us build a shared space of intention. Leave a comment below with the affirmation: I am ready to let my body rest. Let that be your first step toward safety today. We often think that emotional pain is something that belongs solely to the past. We tell ourselves that because a difficult year ended, or because we walked away from an exhausting situation, we should be entirely over it. We expect our hearts to just reset the moment our external circumstances change. But your mind and your body speak different languages. While your logical mind knows you are safe in this present room, your physiology might still be trapped in the echoes of what happened years ago. It carries the tension of every unspoken boundary, the fatigue of every moment you had to be strong when you felt completely broken, and the memory of every time your trust was fractured. You are not weak for feeling worn out. You are simply carrying a body that has been holding its breath for far too long. When you live with this unseen burden, your daily life becomes a quiet battle against your own responses. You wake up already feeling tired, as if you spent the entire night fighting an invisible war in your sleep. You walk into a grocery store or a workspace, and without any clear reason, the lights feel too bright, the sounds feel too loud, and the presence of other people feels entirely overwhelming. You might find yourself checking your front door lock multiple times, or meticulously organizing your desk, not out of a love for neatness, but because your inner world feels so profoundly chaotic that you desperately need to control something on the outside. Every small interaction feels high stakes. A simple question from a loved one can feel like an accusation, and an unexpected change in your schedule can cause a wave of panic that makes you want to hide away from the world completely. This is the true cost of being emotionally overloaded. Your system becomes so full of old, unexpressed pain that there is simply no room left for the present moment. You are constantly braced for impact, waiting for the other shoe to drop, unable to accept that things can just be peaceful. You carry the grief of things you never got to mourn, the anger of situations where you were treated unfairly, and the deep loneliness of having to protect yourself when no one else would. It is a heavy, suffocating armor that you built to survive. But now, that very same armor is making it impossible to breathe. If you are tired of carrying this weight, if you are tired of feeling like a stranger in your own skin, please know that you do not have to fix everything today. You just have to acknowledge that the burden is there, that it is real, and that your body deserves a chance to finally lay it down. Think about how you react when a sudden, loud sound happens near you. You flinch, your heart rate spikes, and your muscles tighten without your permission. That is your internal defense system working exactly as it should to keep you protected. But what happens when that protective state never turns off? When emotional pain is prolonged, or when we are forced to suppress our feelings just to survive our daily routines, that temporary state of survival becomes our permanent baseline. We become chronically overloaded, wired to look for threats in every interaction, every silence, and every change in someone's tone of voice. We falsely believe that because we chose to move forward, our body automatically followed our lead. But the body does not keep track of calendar days. It keeps track of how safe it feels right now, in this exact moment. And for a long time, safety has been hard to find. This shows up in the most ordinary moments of our lives. It is the sudden wave of intense frustration you feel when you drop a set of keys on the floor. It is the unexplainable urge to cancel plans with people you genuinely love, simply because the idea of stepping outside feels like too much to manage. It is the way you find yourself pacing around your living room, unable to settle into a book or a movie, because your body insists that sitting still is dangerous. You are not failing at life, and you are not broken. Your physiology has simply memorized a pattern of survival, and it is doing exactly what it thinks it needs to do to keep you safe from being hurt again. It remembers the times you had to swallow your tears because crying wasn't allowed or wasn't safe. It remembers the exact feeling of helpless abandonment, the precise moment your stomach dropped, and the heavy air in a room where you felt completely unseen. When we experience these old emotional triggers, our bodies don't just recall a memory, they relive it. You might be sitting at a red light or washing dishes, and suddenly, a specific phrase or a certain look from a stranger sends a cold jolt down your spine. Your throat tightens, your chest closes up, and you feel an intense, overwhelming urge to run away or fight back. In those seconds, you are no longer an adult standing in a safe space. You are back in the exact place where the hurt originally happened. The body holds on to these unexpressed feelings like frozen energy, locking them deep within your muscles and your breath. Every time you had to keep quiet to protect the peace, every time you had to smile when you were grieving, and every time you had to pretend you were completely fine just to get through the day, your body recorded the debt. Living this way means you are constantly exhausted, not from what you are doing, but from what you are holding back. Your system is using every ounce of its strength just to keep the old pain beneath the surface, leaving you with absolutely nothing left for your actual life. You find yourself overreacting to minor problems, feeling completely despondent over a small mistake, or completely shutting down when someone offers you genuine warmth because your body simply doesn't know how to receive it without suspecting a trap. It is a deeply lonely existence to look normal on the outside while your physical self is constantly screaming for safety on the inside. But recognizing this pattern is where the shift begins. Your body isn't your enemy for remembering everything. It is a loyal protector that has been working overtime for years. It is simply waiting for you to notice how tired it is, so you can finally begin the gentle process of teaching it that the danger has passed and it is finally okay to let go. When we live in this state of constant readiness, our physical body begins to shape itself around our internal stress. You might notice that your jaw is perpetually clenched, to the point where waking up in the morning feels tight and uncomfortable. You might find that your posture is naturally protective, with your chest slightly sunken and your hands closed tightly into fists without you realizing it. We try to think our way out of these physical sensations, telling ourselves to just relax or calm down. But logic rarely changes the language of a guarded nervous system. Your body is building a physical fortress to protect a heart that has been broken too many times. And that fortress is made of tight muscles, shallow breathing, and a restless spine. It is a structure built out of the heavy bricks of old, unexpressed pain. And over time, living inside this armor becomes the only way we know how to exist. Every time we experience a moment of emotional distress that we cannot fully process or express, that energy has to go somewhere. It gets stored in the deep tissues, the tightness of our breathing patterns, and the rhythm of our hearts. When you are emotionally overloaded, even the smallest daily demands feel monumental. Deciding what to make for dinner can feel like an impossible puzzle. An unexpected text message can cause a physical jolt in your stomach. It is a state of constant depletion, where your inner battery is running on less than 5%, yet your system is trying to run at full speed. You feel an aching heaviness in your limbs, as if you are wading through deep water just to cross a room, while your mind is simultaneously spinning with a frantic, desperate energy. You are trapped in a physical contradiction, completely exhausted, yet utterly unable to rest. This architecture of tension alters how you occupy space in the world. You walk into a room with your shoulders raised like shields, prepared to deflect criticism or disappointment before a single word is even spoken. Your breathing stays trapped in the top half of your chest, a rapid and restricted pattern that signals to your brain that you are still in the middle of a crisis. You might notice that you cannot sit back fully into a chair. You sit on the very edge, your legs coiled like springs, ready to jump up and fix a problem at a moment's notice. Even when you lie down in bed at night, your muscles refuse to yield to the mattress. You are holding yourself up, terrified that if you completely let go, the unresolved grief and anger you have buried so deeply will finally rise up and swallow you whole. It is a devastating way to live, feeling like a prisoner within your own frame. This physical restriction is not a personal failure. It is the visible map of your survival. It is the physical record of every time you had to swallow your true feelings to keep a job, every time you had to be the strong one while your world was crumbling, and every time you were forced to endure an environment that did not value your safety. Your body hardened itself because it had to. But carrying this architecture into a peaceful present means you are continually paying the price for a war that has already ended. The tension is a quiet plea from a physical system that has forgotten how to soften. Healing this structure does not require force or anger. It requires a gentle, patient willingness to sit with the tightness, to breathe into the narrow spaces, and to softly remind your body that it no longer needs to stand guard against the past. To truly understand why our bodies hold on to these patterns so fiercely, we have to look deeper than just our surface-level habits. We have to look at the internal blueprints we built during the most vulnerable moments of our lives. When we experience emotional pain that feels too vast to handle, we naturally build defenses to shield ourselves. We promise ourselves we will never let someone get that close again. Or we decide that showing vulnerability is synonymous with inviting harm. Over time, these defenses become so automatic that we forget we are even wearing them. They become the invisible script running in the background of our lives, dictating how we respond to love, to conflict, and to silence. We think we are making conscious choices, but we are often just following an old survival map drawn by a younger, frightened version of ourselves. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung spent decades exploring how the pieces of ourselves we push away do not simply vanish. Instead, they operate beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. He beautifully noted how these hidden forces shape our entire reality. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." When applied to our physical well-being, this means that as long as we ignore the old emotional patterns stored in our bodies, our nervous system will continue to react based on past pain. We will find ourselves repeatedly burning out, reacting with intense anger over minor inconveniences, or pulling away from healthy relationships, wondering why we keep experiencing the same exhausting cycles. It is not fate. It is your body repeating the survival strategies it knows best. It is the hidden blueprint operating in the dark, convincing you that the world is still just as unsafe as it used to be. Every time you push away a good person because their kindness feels unfamiliar, or every time you over-prepare for a simple meeting as if your entire worth is on the line, you are following that old blueprint. This unconscious layout creates a deep divide within us. On the surface, your adult self wants peace, connection, and joy. But underneath, the blueprint is constantly screaming that safety only exists in isolation, in hypervigilance, or in perfectionism. You find yourself trapped in self-sabotage, destroying beautiful moments because your nervous system misinterprets calmness as a trap. When life gets quiet, the blueprint panics, whispering that something terrible must be just around the corner, prompting you to pick a fight or take on too much work just to bring back the familiar feeling of chaos. You become an observer in your own life, watching yourself repeat the exact same painful dynamics with different people and in different settings, feeling completely powerless to stop it. Rewriting this blueprint is the work of healing, but it cannot be done by hating your reactions. These hidden strategies were not created to hurt you. They were created to keep you alive when you had no other options. The blueprint was your sanctuary when the storm was raging. But now that the storm has passed, you no longer have to live in the bunker. Healing means turning toward these automatic, frantic reactions with immense tenderness. It means noticing the exact moment your chest tightens with suspicion, or your mind begins to spin with worry, and gently pointing out to your inner self that the old blueprint belongs to a past chapter. By bringing these hidden patterns into the warm light of your awareness, you strip them of their power, slowly teaching your nervous system that it is safe to write a completely new story of peace. Living with a highly reactive nervous system changes how we interact with the world around us. It distorts our perception, making safe environments feel unpredictable. Think about how you feel when someone is a few minutes late to meet you. Instead of assuming they are stuck in traffic, does your mind immediately jump to the conclusion that they are angry with you or that you have done something wrong? When someone asks to speak with you later in the day, do you spend the intervening hours rehearsing an apology, fully expecting bad news? You walk through your days on a tightrope, completely convinced that the slightest misstep will cause everything around you to come crashing down. These are not just overactive thoughts. They are the physical manifestations of a system that has been conditioned to expect the worst. When old emotional pain is left unaddressed, we lose our capacity to rest in the present moment. We become hypervigilant, constantly scanning the faces of our colleagues, the phrasing of project documents, or the subtle shifts in our home environments for signs of impending conflict. It is an incredibly lonely way to live, because even when you are surrounded by love and stability, your body tells you that the stability is just a temporary illusion before the next hardship arrives. You become a detective in your own life, analyzing the length of a text message, the tone of a passing greeting, or the sudden quietness of a partner, searching desperately for clues of danger so you can protect yourself before the blow lands. The exhaustion of this constant scanning shows up in quiet, subtle ways that we often dismiss as simple personality traits or minor fatigue. It is the way you feel completely drained after a normal, low-stakes conversation, needing to sit in a dark, silent room for an hour just to recover from the simple act of listening and responding. It is the way you find yourself staring at a wall for long stretches of time, your mind entirely blank, because your brain has simply run out of the energy required to process any more information. You might notice that your memory is getting foggy, that you forget what you walked into a room for, or struggle to find ordinary words mid-sentence. This happens because a significant portion of your internal processing power is being entirely consumed by a background program of fear and survival. This subtle exhaustion also completely erodes your ability to handle small, everyday inconveniences. A minor change in a plan doesn't just disappoint you. It shatters your entire day. A small spill on the counter feels like a personal tragedy. An item being out of stock at the store brings you to the verge of tears. When your nervous system is chronically overloaded, you have absolutely no emotional margin left. Your tolerance level is entirely full, meaning that even a single drop of extra stress causes your entire system to overflow. You are living on the absolute edge of your capacity, masking your profound depletion behind a wall of forced smiles and constant productivity, terrified that if you stop moving for even a second, the sheer weight of how tired you actually are will finally catch up to you. Recognizing these subtle signs is a profound act of self-compassion. You are not being dramatic, you are not being overly sensitive, and you are not losing your grip. Your system is simply exhausted from fighting an invisible historical war every single day. It is trying to tell you, through the fog and the frustration, that it cannot keep running at this pace anymore. It is a quiet plea for grace. When you begin to notice these moments of deep depletion, you can stop blaming yourself for being tired and instead begin to honor what that tiredness is telling you. You can start creating spaces where you don't have to perform, don't have to anticipate, and don't have to guard against the world, allowing your system to slowly realize that it is finally safe enough to step down from the watchtower. The turning point in healing comes when we realize that we cannot argue our way into peace. You can read every self-help book available, understand the exact root of your challenges, and analyze your behavior perfectly. But your nervous system will remain unchanged if it does not feel safe in the present. Healing is not an intellectual exercise. It is a physical experience. To reset a system that has been overloaded for years, we have to learn to communicate through sensations rather than words. We spend so much time trying to figure ourselves out, tracking down every single reason why we are anxious, thinking that if we find the perfect explanation, the panic will finally leave us alone. But your body does not care about your theories, your timelines, or your justifications. It only cares about the physical reality of this exact moment. This means that when you feel that familiar wave of panic or tightness rising in your chest, you stop trying to figure out exactly why it is there in that exact second. You stop asking yourself why you are feeling this way again after doing so much work. Instead, you acknowledge its physical presence. You might place a warm hand over your heart and notice the rapid rise and fall of your chest. You might look around the room and name 3 solid, unmoving objects to remind your eyes that the environment is currently stable. You might feel the heavy, grounding pressure of your feet, pressing firmly against the solid floor. Or run your fingers along the rough texture of the chair you are sitting on. By focusing on the tangible reality of your surroundings and your physical body, you begin to send signals of safety down into the deepest, most instinctive parts of your system, letting it know that the past event is finally over. For years, you have probably relied on your intellect to protect you. You used your mind to anticipate every bad scenario, to rehearse every conversation, and to analyze every person's behavior so you wouldn't be caught off guard. It was a brilliant strategy, but it kept you entirely stuck in your head, completely disconnected from the neck down. When you try to cure physical panic with pure logic, it is like shouting at a storm to stop raining. The body speaks a dialect of pressure, warmth, breath, and weight. When your chest tightens, it is your body saying, "I feel unprotected." Shifting to felt safety means you stop trying to fix the thought, and you start comforting the physical sensation. You allow your belly to soften. You let your shoulders drop, even just a fraction of an inch. And you offer yourself the gentle, steady presence that you desperately needed when the original hurt occurred. This shift requires immense patience because your body will not believe you are safe the very first time you tell it so. It has been disappointed too many times before. When you sit quietly to practice this physical grounding, your mind might start screaming that you are wasting time, or that you are letting your guard down too much, making yourself vulnerable to attack. This resistance is completely natural. It is just the old survival system doing its job. Healing means staying with the physical discomfort anyway, breathing through the urge to run away, and showing your system that you can tolerate the stillness. Every time you choose to respond to panic with physical comfort instead of mental panic, you slowly build a brand new pathway in your system. You are teaching your body that it doesn't have to stay braced for a historic storm anymore, because the sky above you right now is completely clear, and you are entirely capable of keeping yourself safe. As we begin to bring comfort to our physical bodies, the old emotional pain that we have hidden away will naturally begin to surface. This can feel incredibly intimidating. You might experience sudden days of intense sadness without an obvious cause, or feel an immense wave of fatigue that makes you want to rest for hours. You might find yourself crying over a small, seemingly unrelated moment, or feeling a deep ache of loneliness even while sitting next to someone who cares about you. It is crucial to understand that this is not a sign of regression. When your nervous system finally feels secure enough to let its guard down, it begins to process the backlog of heavy emotions it had to hold back just to get you through the harder chapters of your life. The walls you built are finally cracking, not because you are breaking down, but because you are finally safe enough to break open and heal. Carl Jung frequently discussed how true wholeness requires us to face these exact hidden, uncomfortable parts of our history rather than ignoring them. He observed that true transformation does not come from pretending everything is perfect. He noted that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. In the context of your physical recovery, making the darkness conscious means allowing yourself to feel the grief, the anger, and the disappointment you previously had to push aside. It means sitting quietly with the discomfort instead of trying to immediately fix it, distract yourself, or pretend you are entirely unaffected. For years, you had to move so quickly just to survive that you never had the time to properly honor how much those old moments actually hurt. You had to bury your disappointment, silence your voice, and lock away your heartbreak just to show up for your daily responsibilities. But those exiled feelings did not disappear. They simply waited in the shadows of your body, hoping for a day when you would finally be strong enough to look back and receive them. Integrating these pieces means creating a gentle sanctuary for the younger, wounded versions of yourself. When an old wave of grief washes over you, instead of pushing it away or judging yourself for being too emotional, you welcome it. You sit with the tightness in your throat and the heaviness in your chest, as if you are sitting beside a dear friend who is hurting. You let the tears fall without needing to explain them, and you let the anger burn without needing to act on it. When you allow a difficult emotion to just exist in your body without fighting it, the sensation eventually reaches its peak, runs its course, and begins to soften. You are showing your system that you are no longer terrified of your own internal landscape. This integration is a profound homecoming. You are reclaiming the lost parts of yourself, the parts that were told they were too much, the parts that were shamed for having needs, and the parts that had to become completely invisible to stay safe. As you slowly breathe through these heavy sensations, you are weaving your past back into your present, transforming old wounds into wisdom. The heavy burden of keeping those secrets buried melts away, freeing up massive amounts of internal energy. You begin to feel more grounded, more whole, and deeply rooted in your own skin, finally understanding that every single piece of your story deserves to be met with unconditional love and respect. Resetting your internal balance requires an ongoing commitment to protecting your energetic capacity. When you have spent a lifetime being the person who takes care of everyone else, or the one who manages every crisis perfectly, saying no can feel like a profound threat to your identity. Your body might react to setting a boundary with intense anxiety, making you feel as though you are doing something deeply wrong. You might feel a heavy, sinking sensation in your stomach. Your heart might begin to race, and a wave of intense guilt might wash over you the moment you attempt to put your own needs first. But stretching yourself thin to keep everyone else comfortable is a primary way we keep our nervous systems locked in a state of chronic overload. Every time you say yes to someone else when your inner self is screaming no, You are actively abandoning your own well-being to protect the comfort of others. Protecting your system means noticing your limits before you completely hit a wall. It looks like telling a friend that you love them deeply, but you do not have the capacity to support a heavy conversation this evening. It looks like choosing a quiet evening at home over a chaotic social gathering, even if you feel a slight pang of guilt for staying in. It means honoring the current state of your energy, rather than forcing yourself to match the pace of a demanding world. For so long, you may have believed that boundaries were harsh, walls meant to keep people out, or acts of aggression that would cause the people you love to leave you behind. In reality, a boundary is a bridge of honesty. It is a gentle way of telling the people in your life exactly how to love you without draining the very essence of who you are. When your nervous system has been overloaded by old emotional pain, setting a boundary can feel like an emergency. The survival part of your brain associates disappointing others with a total loss of safety. You worry that if you are not constantly helpful, constantly available, and constantly fixing things, you will no longer be wanted. Because of this, practicing boundaries requires immense physical bravery. It means sitting through the temporary discomfort of someone else's disappointment without rushing in to fix it. It means letting the text message sit unanswered for an hour while you eat your dinner in peace. It means stepping away from a toxic conversation and letting your breath catch up to you. It is a slow process of retraining your system to understand that your worth is not tied to how much of yourself you can give away. Every time you set a gentle, firm boundary, you show your body that you are actively protecting its well-being. You are sending a powerful signal to your subconscious that you are finally safe enough to be guarded by your own conscious choices, rather than by automatic physical tension. You are telling your heart that its energy is sacred, that its limits are real, and that its capacity deserves to be respected. It is okay if your voice shakes the first few times you speak up for yourself. It is okay if you have to step away and breathe deeply to steady your racing pulse. By practicing these small, daily acts of protection, you gradually build a beautiful perimeter of safety around your life, a space where your nervous system can finally drop its defenses, knowing that you are fully capable of standing up for its peace. True healing does not require you to completely change your life overnight, nor does it demand hours of complicated routines. When you are already emotionally overloaded, adding a long list of self-care tasks can feel like just another heavy chore you are failing to complete. A nervous system is reset through small, consistent choices made throughout the day. It is found in the micro moments of solace you allow yourself to experience. It is the choice to pause for 60 seconds between finishing a project and starting the next one, simply allowing your hands to rest heavily in your lap. It is the willingness to let your gaze soften out a window, watching the movement of the clouds without trying to achieve anything at all. These tiny pauses are not empty spaces. They are the quiet, necessary drops of water that slowly soothe a system that has been burning with stress for far too long. These brief moments act as anchors for your system, breaking up the continuous stream of daily stress. When you intentionally slow down your movements, even just by walking a bit more deliberately across a room, or taking an extra moment to savor the warmth of a morning beverage, you are actively interrupting the pattern of survival. You are demonstrating to your physical self that there is no immediate crisis to manage, no emergency to fix, and no imminent threat to outrun. You are teaching your body how to live in the quiet spaces of life again. For years, your body has only known how to rush, how to anticipate the next blow, and how to push through exhaustion. When you give yourself permission to just be still for a single minute, you are showing your system an entirely new way of existing. Think about how often you rush through the transition spaces of your day. You finish a difficult task and immediately jump into the next responsibility without taking a single breath. You drive home in complete tension, your hands gripping the steering wheel like you are holding on to life itself. Creating solace means finding the courage to pause in those exact middle spaces. It means sitting in your parked car for 5 extra minutes before you open the door, letting the silence wrap around you like a heavy, comforting blanket. It looks like closing your eyes while washing your face, feeling the simple sensation of warm water against your skin without thinking about what comes next. It means letting a breath go all the way down into your stomach, letting your ribs expand, and just feeling the simple reality of being alive in a quiet room. These small practices might feel incredibly uncomfortable at first. When your nervous system is used to constant movement, quietness can feel terrifying. Your mind might start to wander back to old arguments, or it might try to make a list of things you should be worrying about. This is just the old survival engine trying to turn back on because it doesn't trust the quiet. Healing means gently noticing that noise, placing a comforting hand on your lap, and returning to the sensation of the present moment anyway. You don't need a perfect environment to find peace. You just need to claim a few seconds of honesty for yourself. By choosing these tiny micro moments of rest, you are slowly peeling away the heavy layers of old emotional overload, showing your heart that peace doesn't have to be earned. It is something you deserve right now. The journey of releasing old emotional pain is not a linear path with a perfect destination. You will still have days where your jaw tightens, where an unexpected change throws you off balance, or where you feel deeply overwhelmed by the world. The difference is that you will no longer see these moments as a sign that you are failing. You will recognize them simply as your body's familiar way of trying to protect you. And you will know exactly how to guide yourself back to a place of inner safety. You will realize that healing does not mean reaching a state where you never feel afraid or hurt again. It means building a large, compassionate heart that is capable of holding your fear without letting it run your life. It means becoming the gentle, steady anchor you always needed during the storm. Be incredibly gentle with yourself as you navigate this process. Your body spent years building its defenses, and it takes time, patience, and immense compassion to help those defenses soften. You are rewriting the story of how you live inside your own skin. For a long time, you may have looked at yourself as a collection of mistakes, wondering why you couldn't just get over the past, or why you kept falling back into the same heavy patterns. But as you step into this final space of peace, you begin to see that every single reaction, every moment of panic, and every instance of shutting down was just a cry for love from a system that felt completely unprotected. You stop fighting yourself. You stop apologizing for your sensitivity, and you finally begin to drop the heavy weapons of self-criticism. Coming home to yourself means welcoming all the fractured, hidden pieces of your history back into the warmth of the present moment. It means looking at the younger version of you who had to carry the weight of an unseen burden, the version who had to memorize survival strategies, and saying, "We are safe now. The war is over, and you can finally rest." It is the profound relief of realizing that you no longer have to perform, pretend, or protect yourself from the people who truly love you. You learn to live in the quiet spaces of life without feeling the need to hurry or fix the silence. You begin to trust the stability around you, accepting that it is real and that you are entirely worthy of experiencing a calm, uncomplicated life. By choosing to slow down, honor your feelings, and listen to your physical needs, you are actively stepping out of survival mode and reclaiming your life. You are finally creating a safe, quiet home within yourself, a place where your mind can be still, your breath can be deep, and your body can finally truly rest. You are no longer running away from your own shadow or hiding from the world outside. You are standing firmly in your own skin, deeply rooted, and filled with a soft, quiet strength. Take a deep, final breath and feel the absolute reality of this moment. You have survived the hardest chapters of your story. You have carried the heavy burdens across the finish line, and now you are finally, beautifully home. As the words of this journey begin to settle into the quiet corners of your mind, I want you to take a long, deliberate pause right here. Do not rush forward into the next thing on your schedule. Do not instantly look for a distraction to fill the silence that we have created together. Just sit with the echo of your own breathing. Feel the precise point where your body meets the surface beneath you, supporting your weight without you having to ask it to. If you look closely at how you feel right now compared to when we first started speaking, you might notice a very subtle shift. Perhaps your shoulders have dropped a fraction of an inch away from your ears. Perhaps the frantic, spinning thoughts in your mind have slowed down to a gentle, manageable rhythm. Perhaps, for the first time in a very long time, your chest feels wide enough to hold a truly deep, unrestricted breath. This softness you are experiencing right now is not accidental. It is the first green shoot of healing breaking through the hardened soil of old survival patterns. Before we officially part ways, and you step back into the movement of the world, let us anchor this new state of being. Let us lock in this feeling of felt safety so that your nervous system can remember the way back to this peace whenever the storms of life return. I invite you right now to leave a final, powerful mark of your intention in the comments below. Write down this affirmation. I am safely rooted in the peace of my own presence. By typing those words, you are not just leaving a message on a screen. You are making a conscious declaration to your physical body that you are no longer willing to live as a prisoner to old, historical pain. You are telling your heart that it is safe to open up, and you are showing your mind that the emergency is officially over. Let that affirmation be your anchor, a physical testament to the beautiful boundary you are drawing between the hardships of your past and the peace of your present. Looking back at the road we have traveled through these sections, it becomes clear that resetting an overloaded system is never about forcing yourself to change or fixing a part of you that is broken. It is a slow, deeply emotional process of coming home to a self that you had to leave behind just to stay safe. Every single moment of hypervigilance, every instance of your jaw clenching in anticipation, and every urge to pull away from the world was just your body's loyal, exhausted way of trying to protect you from being shattered again. You do not need to punish yourself for those responses. You do not need to feel guilty for the days when the overload wins and you find yourself completely drained by the ordinary demands of life. Healing is not a race to a perfect, calm destination. It is a lifetime commitment to showing yourself unconditional grace when the old blueprints try to take over. As you move forward from this space, remember that you carry the tools of your own solace within you at all times. You do not need hours of complicated practices or a perfect, silent environment to find your footing. You only need to claim the tiny micro moments of peace that are always available to you in the middle of your daily routines. You can choose to pause for 60 seconds before answering a call. You can choose to place a warm, comforting hand over your heart when you feel a wave of frustration rising. You can choose to step outside for a brief moment and let your eyes track the quiet movement of the sky, letting the rhythm of the world remind you that you are just a small, beautiful part of a larger story. Every time you make the choice to slow down your steps, to validate your heavy feelings, and to protect your energetic capacity with a gentle boundary, you are actively retraining your nervous system to live in a state of freedom.